Welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset. So today, over the last few days, someone has been dumping the hell out of pDAI. Or has someone been dumping the hell out of pDAI? So we're going to have a look at that. Or has the market just been kind of dumping and not feeling very confident? So we're going to take a look at that. We're also going to take a look at Richard Hart's latest message on pDAI. And you'll notice that I've put in brackets lolz because it is a joke, so just relax. And did the bug eaters ban Zach's Twitter because his Twitter spaces, his pDAI spaces was too overpowered? So if you want to check out that link, that is in the description. I would definitely recommend checking that out after this. It went for a few hours. I had over 60,000 viewers or listeners on that particular space. So now Zach's been banned from Twitter, so we're kind of speculating that it's because of this Twitter Spaces and the bug eaters are trying to silence pDAI, just like they've tried to silence everything to do with Pulse Chain from day one. So then we're going to have a look at ratios, as many people have been asking me about ratios. So we're going to have a look at ratios. We're going to have a look at PulseX, just some basic ratios, just to kind of help you wrap your mind around it with Hex and Affection and pDAI. So with that, let's get into... All right, here we go. So first of all, breaking news so this is Caledon Crypto. He brought us this breaking news. Richard Hart sends a voice message to his community. Is he trying to hint at something to do with pDAI? So let's have a look what Richard said here.
pDAI $2!
That's going down in the law of Pulse Chain forever, of the pDAI narrative forever. So that was Rudy. I think that's Rudy. So I know Rudy from Sonny's Pub, but he's been banned from Sonny's Pub now. So anyway, just a bit of lolz. So that's getting rehashed and reused infinitely because it's just so damn good. So, okay. So in terms of the dumping on the chart, well, first of all, let's just have a look at the chart. So actually, the cores have started to recover. So plus 8.6% on PulseX. Still, things are looking healthy with the ratios down in Atropa, but this is what's interesting to me. So when I did a tweet about this today, so this is showing the relationship of down in Atropa, how that is dumping down, which is pumping Atropa. You can see the inverse relationship: down, it goes up; down, it goes up. Now this key level here, so this here is like the Moon King style of trading. So when we were looking at this, the Don said from this point, he said 2 days, we're going to break out. We're going to enter bull season. And 2 days later, we did. So the Don vid called it and we broke out of this channel. It retested this channel, so it's more clear on the pDAI chart. But if it's the Moon King, one thing that the Moon King likes to do to get his true confirmation for when he really enters, so he'll get a breakout of a channel here, then he'll get a retest of a key level. So it's not a massively key level, but the fact that it touched this, it wicked to this, pulled back down, and it broke through that level. So we can see it touching that level here with these 3 candles as well. And now it's pulling back down to this level. So if it rejects this level, then from the perspective of the Moon King's TA, this would be like all systems go. This is like confirmed bullish, ape in. This is when he would be buying. So I like to follow and listen to the Moon King, but you know, the Moon King can afford to wait a little bit longer. And whether you like to wait and get that certainty, this could be the certainty for you. If it falls through this, then it could go lower. If it rejects this and goes up, then that's a Moon King confirmation of bullish momentum. So I just wanted to share that. And it's the same kind of setup on pDAI as well. So yeah, exactly the same kind of setup. And as we can see, everything is moving down with pDAI. So nothing major, really. No clear signals from the charts. So, okay, is this just like a regular pullback? But it's not just a regular pullback because everybody's favorite, Herman. So our friend Herman, so 99 Capital, pretty much the best on-chain detective in relation to pDAI, 99 Capital. So our friend Herman has reappeared as he begins selling pDAI again. He's been missing since November 24th. So let's actually have a look at the charts from November 24th. So around about here, where was that on the pDAI chart? So around about here, November 24th. Okay, so really kind of when it got to about the top. So he's been missing since then. The last time this happened was the pDAI bottom. Maybe he's been missing, maybe not necessarily from the charts, but maybe just from the chats, because he's the founder of Leonidas. So the last time this happened, so in other words, the last time that he did any dumping was the pDAI bottom on the 31st of July, 2024. So let's have a look at this. Let's get the 31st of July, 2024. Let's make this red, just so we can see where Herman last stopped dumping. 31st of July, 2024, June, July, 31st. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So basically this bottom was when Herman stopped dumping. And again on August 29. Where's our August 29? September, October, September. Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. All right, so this here basically, well, yeah, really this bottom. So when it entered into bull season. So really Herman was the one that was keeping it down here. He was selling it down. And again on the 3rd of November. So the 3rd of November, where is that? Herman, you cheeky dog. So pretty much the bottom here. So just before it took off. So Herman is the one that dumps the shit out of it. So he would have been dumping the shit out of it here and dumping the crap out of it here. So Herman has been nuking it. And so take the gift from Mean RH this time. So instead of, I do notice the sentiment whenever Herman is dumping, people get really upset. But after he finishes dumping, then the chart can go. So Mount Capital is speculating that Herman is an anagram for Mean Richard Hart. So just like Maria Rahel, so there was all this speculation that Maria Rahel is an anagram for Am I the real Richard Hart? So Mean Richard Hart's bag is counting us down to the peg. So pDAI to $1 is inevitable. RH is providing you with entry liquidity. Take advantage of it. So he's speculating that possibly Maria Rahel is something to do with, well, Maria Rahel is Richard Hart and Herman is Richard Hart, possibly. But basically, Herman had billions of pDAI. So again, this is his supply. He had over 2 billion. And so this is his pDAI holding. So from March 2024, he had just over 2 billion, probably about 2.1 billion. And now he's got less than 1 billion. So getting close to 500 million. So this was in November. So he would have even less than that now. So he's probably got 500,000 left or less than 500,000. So getting the sellers out is really good. So getting Herman out is really good. So again, you can choose to look at this two ways. You can be like, oh, Herman is slowing it down from going green. Or you could look at this as like, okay, thank you very much, Herman. My next paycheck, I'm going to put even more into pDAI now because you've held the price down for me, that it hasn't just taken off and pegged tomorrow, so I can actually accumulate more. So there's the grateful way and there's the pessimistic way. So I always try to choose the grateful way. So Herman, thank you very much for dumping the charts for the people who can enter. So there we go. So this is why, well, this is the main reason why. So someone who has a massive supply, so people who have massive supplies can hurt the chart. So this is why the chart is being hurt. So really once Herman is out, it's all just upside. That's the beautiful thing. So once the sellers are out, it's all upside. But there is going to be sellers on the way. But if you can get the biggest seller out at these prices, I'd rather, again, that's another grateful way of looking at it. You would rather get Herman's 2 billion supply out now before we even get to 10 cents, as opposed to him having 2 billion tokens after 10 cents, because then he can really destroy the price a lot. So I'd rather him destroy the price now, take his profit, do whatever he wants with it, go buy his Lambos, go buy his mansions, and then just let the price do its thing. So this seemingly is a lot to do with Herman. So yeah, this is really great. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Zach. So Zach's Twitter Spaces, I've put the link in the description, had 60,000 people tune into it. And Zach now his account's been suspended by Twitter. So January 26th. So yeah, at least it said his account was suspended. So I saw it in the Atropa chat today. So I don't know if that means you can't look at his stuff anymore. So yeah, there we go. So a few of us were speculating it's because of this. You know, if we look at all the suppression, it's because of this Twitter Spaces. If we look at all the suppression that Richard Hart has copped for Hex and Pulse Chain, I'm expecting now it's coming back onto the boys now. So the boys who are basically just contributing to the community and now start potentially being silent. So this is just crackpot theory. So anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about Zach getting banned? I'm not too sure. So anyway, what's going on, Robert? Good morning, Techno Babble. Clintrons, what's going on, man? Good evening, Fatina. So to the Aussie crew, the big dog, Van. What's going on, Van? Good morning, Mark. Good morning, BP Crypto. Jesu, what's going on? And good morning, Herman left in the dust. Goodbye, Herman. So yes, get rid of the last few hundred million. Get rid of it now. I'd rather Herman get rid of it now. So then we go parabolic. Then we have the hockey stick. So props to everyone who has held and bought the dip in the past 4 dips. We've been kicked in the balls 4 times now since late December. It's getting rough. It's getting rough out there, man. But yeah, these are just opportunities, right? So honestly, I don't know, Fatina. It could just be an algorithmic thing, and he did something by the algorithm. I know Somi also got a warning because he called someone a cheat for cheating. Like, he said something about somebody cheating like $10 or something. And the person he called a cheat obviously reported him. So yeah, there you go. So it could just be like a function of, basically some kind of the way the algorithm operates, or it could actually be human intervention that's saying, oh, Zach's doing something wrong here, so let's suspend his account. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping it's the former, but it could be the latter. And if it is the latter, it might have something to do with this. This is just what we're speculating. So X seems to be banning everyone lately. Exactly. So Puffy, how can I DM you? X won't let me. Puffy, you got to tell me your handle. I've got to follow you. So the only way you can message me is if I follow you. So yeah, obviously this is my handle on Twitter. So you've probably followed me, but I haven't followed you back. These days I don't follow. I used to follow everyone, but then basically I was told that actually you got to get rid of that little what are they called, apostrophe at the end. I was told that if I do that, it basically affects my account, especially if I follow people, then they just unfollow me. So Puffy 187. Okay, all right, I'm gonna have to. I'll just write that down. So hang on a second. Puffy 1877, so I don't forget. All right, cool. All right, so I'll follow you back. Yeah, it's because you've only got 8 followers, nine followers now. So there you go. So yeah, I usually don't follow people less than 100. So anyway, okay. So people on Solana are rugging and cheating for $6. It's rough in the trenches over there, man. Yeah, like every day. Like the vast majority of people are losing, but still they stay there because we're living in the TikTok generation mindset. We're living in instant gratification society where everybody wants the quickest dopamine hit as soon as possible. Instant gratification. I want everything today. I want my Lambo yesterday, and I want it for as minimum effort as humanly possible. This is the society that we live in because we're obsessed with our phones. We have dopamine overdoses left, right, and center. And Solana is just like dopamine central for gamblers and degenerates. And it's fun. If you pick something and it rockets, let's face it, it's fun. It's fun as hell. We all know that it's fun. We're all degenerates at heart. That's the thing. So there is that there. I tried it on base and it's fun as hell. If you get a 100x in like a day, it's fun as hell. But you mostly lose. And you keep doing that, and yeah, you really mostly lose. So it really sucks. So yeah, Solana is Jeet City, and this is why my long-term thesis is that people are going to eventually gravitate towards Pulse Chain because we're going to have the best performing. We're just going to have the best performing chain. We're going to have steady growth. We're going to have assets like Atropa, which are going to be up and to the right, S&P 500 styles. Like this is essentially like an ETF. It is essentially like an ETF. It's liquidity bonded to the rest of the Atropa ecosystem. So it's essentially an S&P 500 style asset. So basically, we're going to probably continue to see a chart that goes like this, up and to the right. So yeah, I'm in love with the Atropa ecosystem. So I suspect people are probably going to get sick of it. And maybe not this cycle, but people will, like, all those narratives end up dying. This is the meme super cycle, but those narratives do eventually die. And when they do die, we'll be here waiting. We love you, and we're waiting for you here with these superior charts, superior mathematics, and superior community. Until then, we just have to keep getting the word out and start appealing to the right kinds of people. The Jeets, they're not interested in coming here because even the process of bridging over, it's too many clicks right now because their dopamine is like on high, like their brain is just like so out of whack that just there's no patience to even bridge. So they're not the market right now. They'll come at the end because everybody's going to chase the green candles. So when those green candles come, when we get our hockey stick moment, they will come then. But until then, we'll wait. We'll just keep building these great charts and we'll keep building our positions and they can buy our bags off us. So, all right. So now let's move on to ratios. So understanding ratios took me a long time to understand. So Somi was the one that opened my mind up to this. He would do all these videos on ratio charts years ago or a year and a half ago when I would listen to Somi every day. And I still listen to Somi essentially every day. But I never fully understood it until I actually started digging into the Atropa ecosystem. And I started to create multi-charts. So for example, when I started to create multi-charts like this, so I've got multi-charts here and I would have, I mean, back in those days, all my multi-charts now, I set them up a little bit differently, but in those days, I had all these Atropa ecosystem multi-charts like this. So I had it all set up like this, and I have like 16 charts, and I was just trying to analyze, like, oh, some of these charts are going down against each other. Some of these charts are going up against each other. Some of these charts are going sideways. So that then continued to open my mind up about ratios. But still, honestly, it still wasn't an easy thing to grasp. It still took me, even from that moment, like when I first started doing that a year and a half ago, probably only now, like within the last month or two, am I supremely confident with ratios where I'm like on Twitter saying, hey, this looks like a good ratio to trade. Only now. So it's taken me a long, long time. So if you feel like, oh, I just can't get ratios, don't be frustrated with yourself. Just keep learning, keep listening, go back to some of his old videos, re-listen to some of these videos, watch what I'm doing, but then you do it yourself. So just passively listening is not going to be able to click all the neurons in your brain are not going to connect all the dots. You actually need to physically do it with your hands. You need to physically do it by seeing it on the screen and clicking those buttons for yourself. Then the points in your brain, the neurons are going to form new connections, and you're going to understand more clearly what's actually going on. So just by doing it, even then, it's still going to take time. Like, just for example, with these, so I'm going to go over these, but even with some of these ratios, like down to Atropa, whenever I would look at this and I'd see here, like, for example, down to Atropa, but my brain couldn't even connect with, okay, the first, what is the first one? I'd always have to go back to like a pulse chain or a pulse X and go, okay, well, this is the first one. So I'm looking at pulse X and that's going down against DAI, which is the US dollar DAI. Okay, so that means if this is going down, so I'd have to go back and forth. And I did that for like months. It was like, I don't know what you would call that. I don't know if you'd call it some kind of learning disability. I don't really know. But yeah, it was not an easy process. So it took me a long time to wrap my head around too. So months of listening to Somi and then just by doing it. So the easiest ratio to understand is something pegged to the US dollar. So obviously, Bitcoin to US dollar is a ratio between Bitcoin and the US dollar. So for example, at the moment, one Bitcoin is equal to 102,572 US dollars. And so when Bitcoin goes up, it's going up against the US dollar. When it's going down against the US dollar. So one Bitcoin equals that much US dollars. That's the easiest thing to understand. And then therefore, I take that same principle and I apply it to something like Pulse Chain and Pulse X. So for example, another easy ratio is Pulse Chain to the US dollar is a ratio between Pulse Chain and US dollar. So therefore, in this chart, one Pulse Chain is equal to 0.000051. And now let's do that with Pulse X. So with Pulse X, this is a nice, really easy way to see it. So whether it's on whether you click here, so this is the way to get the ratios, but when it comes to like, this is the actual DAI stablecoin, so the eDAI. So you don't need to click this, because whether it's USD or DAI, it's going to say pretty much exactly the same thing. It should say 3632 here as well. There you go. It's going to say exactly the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. Now, I didn't know this until Sunny pointed this out to me, but basically you can scroll down here on Dex Screener, and here it gives you the ratio. So 1 pulse X is equal to 0.00003632. So it'll be the same for DAI as well, because they're exactly the same. So therefore 100, it'll give me that. And then so 1,000 will end up being, and then 10,000 will be 0.3632. See how this is working? So that is according to this price. So it's the value of pulse X compared to the dollar. So again, one pulse X is worth this much US dollars, and you can see it here. So then where it starts to get tricky is when you start comparing ratios between tokens and tokens. So one of the ones that I show a lot is down to Atropa. So let's go back to down to Atropa, for example. So this is one that I show a lot. So I've got it on the Heikin-Ashi. So Heikin-Ashi basically takes like the averages, and it shows more of the flow. So the Heikin-Ashi also gives like a spoofed value. So I'll put it on the actual, see how the value changes here. So the Heikin-Ashi is not the real value. So you want to take it to the actual candle value, and now it's the real value. So now 1 down is equal to 0.2177 Atropa. And you have to make sure that the ratio is clicked here. So to the US dollar, this is only going to give me the value of down to the US dollar. We're not interested in that. We want to see what the value of down is to Atropa. So obviously the value of 1 down is equal to 0.02591 US dollars. But to Atropa, 1 down is worth 0.2177. So now if I open up the down to Atropa, let's bring this over here. So thanks to this trusty calculator. So basically, if you're entering this into Pulse X, this is what you're going to be getting. If you enter 1, so for example, if I enter like 1 down here, it's going to give me that much Atropa. So that's what the calculator is essentially telling us. So then how can you take advantage of this? So hopefully, I mean, this is taking a while to load, so I'm sure you get it. But now let's move to the next example, which is already loaded. So now this is DAI to Pulse Chain. So this is pDAI. And this kind of sucks. You can't swap it, but basically, the pDAI to Pulse Chain chart, you always have to invert it. So yeah, unfortunately, this kind of sucks. But I guess, yeah, you could say that one pDAI is worth 341.76 Pulse Chain. Okay, so obviously this is to the US dollar, and then I would show, so now if I show it to Pulse Chain, so this should say 341.76. So yeah, so 341.69. So it's pretty much the same thing. So okay, so I showed it. Okay, I've showed it with PulseX. Now another example is eHex. So this is where the ratios start to get really important to wrap your head around, because obviously the big narrative of this blockchain is parity. So what is parity? Parity is 1-to-1. Pulse chain value of the value of Pulse chain tokens is equal to the value of the Ethereum side tokens. That's what we want. That's the world's largest free airdrop being successful. So obviously at the start, it was close. And then what ended up happening? So here we see the value of eHex first. So the value first. So this is this number here first, whether that is up or down, it's going to show the strength of it compared to the token that it's with. So for example, this is eHex. So therefore, if this is up, then it means eHex is strong to pHex. If it's down, then it means eHex is weak to pHex. Somebody did hundreds of these kinds of videos. So again, I would strongly recommend going back and looking at that. He would first explain this concept of ratio. So now if we look at this, we're seeing, okay, the value of eHex is very weak to the value of pHex. So basically, So let's have a look at this now. So 1 E hex is going to get you 0.2 P hex. So if you flip that, that means 1 hex is going to get you almost 5 P hex. So this is where the ratios start coming into it. This is where I would strongly recommend just playing around with these numbers and seeing what it means. So if I look at this here, then, so this is where these kinds of trades could be an exceptional trade, because if you believe in the world's largest free airdrop being a success, if you believe in one-to-one, so I've showed this many times with eHex and HotX, so the Atropa version of eHex, in my opinion. So I believe that is going to drag up eHex as people buy into HotX. It's also going to be dragging up eHex in the same way, in exactly the same way that the Atropa Pt I chart. So this is Atropa to pDAI. So I've showed this a lot of times. The Atropa to pDAI. The Atropa to pDAI, even if this is going down, if Atropa is going down against pDAI, so in other words, Atropa is being sold into pDAI, what is that actually doing? If Atropa is being sold into pDAI, that means the value of pDAI is going up, which is what happens here. So we've got the value of pDAI going up here. But because of the percentages of the way that they're bonded, at the very same time to the US dollar, Atropa is actually also going up. It's being dragged up in liquidity with pDAI. So this is why the chart's basically exactly the same as the pDAI chart. So I believe it's the same with HotX and Hex. That's why I believe HotX, as people continue to buy into HotX, it's going to drag up eHex, the value of eHex. So even though eHex is going to go down against HotX, the percentages of the bonding is still going to drag up the value of eHex in relation to the US dollar across the chain, not in relation to HotX. That's the beautiful part of it. So therefore, in this instance, somebody would show these charts continuously. If you believe in the one-to-one narrative, this is a great swap. You could go, all right, well, I'm going to basically be swapping. If I swapped, I could swap a million P hex, and I would get 4.8 million E hex. And therefore, when this goes back up, or if it goes back up to one-to-one, that means 1 E hex is then equal to 1 P hex. So I've got 4.8 million E hex that I bought down here with my P hex, which was stronger in value. And then when it gets up to here, they're equal in value. So then I can swap that E hex back into P hex. So I would have 4.8 million P hex. If I do it halfway along, so let's say I do it literally halfway along. So if I go all the way along and I swap it, then I'm going to get the full amount. If I go halfway along, my 1 million E hex, my 1 million P hex down here, which gets converted to 4.8 million E hex, and I swap it halfway along, then I would get half of that back. So then basically, like if this goes up, how hard does it need to move? So it needs to do a 372%. So if it does a 170 something percent, if it does 170 odd percent, then if I swapped that 4.8 million E hex into P hex, it would end up being like 2.4 million P hex. So I would gain plus 178%. Not the full amount, only when it gets one-to-one. So even as I'm explaining this, I'm feeling like, I can feel the confusion. I can feel the confusion from the people that are watching this. So it's okay. It'll become more clear once you start wrapping your head around it, especially with the things that are one-to-one. Once you start really seeing the one-to-one and it clicks in your mind, and this is why I particularly really like things like affection. So I've been talking about the affection and pDAI a lot. So now I'm going to bring up affection and pDAI. So let's bring up affection and pDAI. I'm going to type affection and pDAI because it seems like affection and pDAI, well, there seems to be an effort to keep it one-to-one. I'm also going to bring up the XUSD and pDAI as well. So what actually makes it like market makers are trying to pull it to the one-to-one, but it's also by the dynamics of the design of affection, because affection is minted by burning pDAI. So there's a limited supply of affection. There's going to be a total of 1.1 billion affection. So it's going to have less supply than pDAI. And the way that you mint it is by burning pDAI. So if the value of pDAI is too strong, then basically it's not worth burning to mint affection, because you're basically getting less. You're getting less because you're basically burning it like one-to-one. You'll burn one of these to mint one of these. So therefore, if the value of pDAI is a lot stronger than affection, then you're not going to do that. Why would you do that when you can swap it and get a much better rate than burning it to minting it? If you burn it to mint it and it's one-to-one, you would not do that. When you would, it just doesn't make economical sense. So this is part of the thing which makes it interesting as like a game theory thing. So man, I used to have I had a sick affection and affection, and because I saw this ratio and I was giving everybody clues. Once I saw this, I was like, holy shit, like I could see this line. There is a concerted effort here to keep it at one-to-one. I saw this, especially when I started to mint affection. So what did I do? Your boy made a liquidity providing position. I own 25% of the liquidity pool, but all of that's gone now. And it's like, oh, my heart weeps. My heart weeps for that, because all this yield, look at this, all this volume, man, that's like, oh, look at all that volume. That's 100K of volume that flowed through that. That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for. So obviously the strength of pDAI as it was getting sold, now it's being sold into affection. So it's not quite yet at a rate where you would want to burn it to mint affection. When it comes above the line, that's when you'd want to do it. That's when it becomes worth it. Because basically, as your, how do we say this? So if burning one, so burning means to delete the supply. So burn one pDAI equals create or mint one affection. So I'll put that on the one-to-one line. If that's what it's doing, then below the line, you would not do that, because obviously, I mean, even here, we'll look at it at these prices. So let's go to our calculator here at the bottom. So we have affection and we'll go to pDAI. So obviously, selling one pDAI will give you 1.18 affection. So why would you burn the pDAI to get only one affection when you can sell it to get 1.18? Down here, it was even better. So down here, basically, you're getting like 2. You were getting above 2. So if you sold one pDAI, you would get over 2 affection. So if it was down here at these prices, so swap one pDAI for, it would have been like let's just say 2.2 affection. Actually, you know what? For the culture, 2.22 affection. The Holy Trinity. So that's what you would get down here. Therefore, as it's come up here, if you were to swap that back, you would have more pDAI, because then your 2.2 affection, you would, okay, let me zoom in here actually. So then here you could swap your 2.2 affection back into pDAI. So now if we enter this here, so if I had 2.22 affection, then I'd have 1.87 pDAI. So swap 2.2 affection into, what's that number say? 1.87. So that's a ratio trade, 1.87 pDAI. That's a ratio trade. So you have increased the size of your pDAI holdings by playing in this very, very simple ratio chart. So just this ratio chart. These are the ratio charts that I want to look for. That's also why EHEX and PHEX is such a big one, because it's parity. it's 1-to-1. So then I look at a chart like this where the target is the 1-to-1, then it's a great ratio chart to exist in, because basically anything down here, you're going to swap pDAI for affection, and anything up here, you're going to swap affection for pDAI. So basically selling pDAI for affection and then selling affection for pDAI up here. But now here's the beautiful, beautiful thing. So up here, when it gets up to here, so let's just make it nice and easy. We'll go up to the 2 point. So up to the 2, where it says 2 here, you can see it on the side. That means basically it'll be the opposite. So basically 2 point up here, 2.22 affection would get you double pDAI. So you'd get 4.4 pDAI. So in other words, you would swap 1 affection up here for 2 pDAI. I hope this is making sense, but this is the alpha of, this is the beauty of the minting. So now, sorry, that's supposed to be swap 1 affection for 2 pDAI. Swap 2 pDAI. I'll remove the mint there because it's going to confuse things. So swap, and then swap for 1.87. And then obviously when it gets to the middle line, I wish I could somehow make this a little bit more easier, but when it would get to here, so if it would get to here, so let's do it in stages. Actually, it's to make it, let's do it in stages, because I've probably made it way more confusing than what it needs to be. It's quite difficult to explain these things. So obviously here, down here, 1 pDAI would get you 2.2. Now, if you swapped it up to here, that 2.2 could swap back into 1.87. Now the chart goes sideways. Eventually it goes here, and it goes to 1-to-1. So then here, your 2.2 affection would get you 2.2 pDAI, because it's now 1-to-1. Now it keeps going. It keeps going up to here, and it's like, oh, wow, now it's up to, wow, now it's worth double. Now affection is way stronger than pDAI somehow. So then when it gets to here, your 2.2 affection will then end up getting you 4.44 pDAI. But here's the thing. I do have a video on the minting process. But if you had an excess of pDAI and you didn't have any affection, you had no affection, you only had pDAI, you missed out on this ratio swap. You're like, oh, damn, look at this. I didn't do any of these swaps. I didn't swap any pDAI into affection, but I'm holding a million pDAI up here. For example, I'm holding a million pDAI up here. And let's get rid of the background. I've got a million pDAI up here. I didn't do any swapping. I just watched it. I just wanted to watch. I wanted to learn. I can't do anything here by swapping. It's like, well, I'm not going to swap a million for affection, because affection is double the value. So if I was to swap that a million for affection, if I was to do that here, I would end up getting 500,000 affection. Now, if I burn it and mint the affection instead, and I have to, so then I would burn the 1 million pDAI, and then I would end up having 1 million affection. Okay, but then the value is double. So then instantly I can swap the 1 million affection for 2 million pDAI. So that's why this whole dynamic is very, very fascinating, because just because it's fascinating, because this creates like a market out of nothing, out of thin air. So affection and pDAI, I love this. It's a fantastic. Actually, I tell you what, even as a liquidity providing potential, I was like one of the first ones to see it, and I kept shilling it. I didn't want to give everyone the exact answers, but I was like, holy shit, this looks wild. And as soon as I saw it, I started talking about it straight away. And then I started adding in liquidity. It's not too bad, 13.45%. So it's not massive. It's not massive, but that's still like, if you consider these as like stable assets, because if affection is 1-to-1 with pDAI, then that also means affection is worth $1 in the future. But this is where it's going to get interesting, because in the future, affection supply is so much more limited to pDAI. And then we have the dysnomia and the burning of affection. So it's just, who knows how this is going to play out? I really don't know. So that yield is exceptional. That's 13.5% for a stable coin. You could really think of it like that. So I lament the loss of this liquidity pool. But there you go. So I'm just going to go through some of the comments just to see if people are kind of following along. I see PLS having a nice move today. Today's the 29th. The Kangs speculate today the case might be dismissed. Exactly. So now it's a Lunar New Year. So, yeah. Hey, Mobicas, what's going on, man? Hey, JWS Dad, if you're still in here, if you know anyone in the Mobicas community, Mobicas are looking for stable coins. There is no better stablecoin narrative than what's happening on Pulse Chain. We're just like Teminor. Everybody thinks we're a cult. Everybody thinks we're scammers. This is where the biggest opportunity is. When you're lacking, I guess every dollar counts. So that's it, man. If today is the last day for Auntie Carol to respond, it's speculated. So today is exactly 90 days after the case. So it's speculated that it should be within 60 to 90 days. So it would be pretty epic if it was on this day. So HotX, EHEX, the slow, steady cooker. Doubled my EHEX bag. Great ratio play, and I can hold my EHEX in the Atropa Eco. Nice BP crypto. Yeah, and like, what a beautiful way. You can keep holding it in there and you can keep growing it, or you can just play it safe and you go, you know what? I'll take out my initial. And so I've got my initial EHEX back, and now I'm just sitting on free EHEX. So why do you think Maria has been quiet lately? Work done and waiting for case dismissal. I'm not too sure. I don't know. I haven't seen. I think the last YouTube video Maria did was the Treasury bill and Atropa one. I think I did see. I don't want to bring up my Telegram just in case. But I did see. Maria making some liquidity positions today. So, yeah, I have to investigate that a little bit more. But there was some liquidity positions today that Maria did for the first time in probably about a week or so, maybe more. It's interesting how Maria's last token was called, motion to dismiss. Exactly. Hey, Adam, what's going on? Loves the cut of my jib. Good on you, brother. The Lamborghini Richard posted simply had hex on it. There was no differentiation of EHEX or PHEX symbolized. In my opinion, I'd just assume it's reasonable. Consider grabbing a bag to hold EHEX. I'd probably agree with you, AOKG. So there was a big moment. I don't know how familiar you are with like Pulse Chain, but there was a big moment where basically Richard was saying like the market has chosen PHEX over EHEX. Why would you give them gas when you could be buying Pulse Chain Hex? And this was like this big FUD moment. The price of EHEX tanked. It was really bad. So I believe in the parity. I'm on board with that concept of parity. So if EHEX reaches parity of PHEX to bridge over to Pulse Chain and have even more value and worth. Exactly. Where did your 25% go? What's that mean? The 25%. Hey, Kimbo, these doggos. What's going on, Orez? Dumping doggos. That's it, the dumping doggos. What's going on? We're just living in the moment, Kimbo. All right, so I totally get it, but I do need some assistance with the tokens I add from Maria's ecosystem. I double check the token addresses with a fine comb, but I need an expert's help to confirm I added the correct tokens. So confirm you added what tokens where, man. I can help you try and address that here if you elaborate on what you're talking about exactly. What's up, Jeroen? I don't think I've seen you in here, man. Nice to meet you. I think pDAI is going to pump hard very soon. I think so too. So if Herman gets out, then it's going to pump hard. So, okay. So I hope this is really clear with the affection and pDAI. So the one-to-one. So I like to look at these things. So from a ratio perspective, where you have a clear ratio, they're the best ones. You don't have to get anything where it's going to do like a massive, massive mega pump. But yeah, I mean, even from here to here, it's 124% basically from the bottom to one-to-one. So you could have doubled if you swapped at the very bottom. You could have doubled your pDAI bags if and when it gets to the one-to-one. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good for something that, in my opinion, is reasonably safe because of the buy and minting function and the fact that there seems to be a concerted effort to keep it to this one-to-one. Market makers want this to happen. So for me, it's like this is a great ratio to exist in. The other one, another easy one is anything that's parity, one-to-one. So XUSD, obviously, as a team member of XUSD, I've been talking about this a lot lately. The XUSD is a vibratile asset. So same thing as a ratio to pDAI. It's also really, really good. Really, really, really good. So I don't know if I have to mention every single time, but yeah, I'm on the team. I get remunerated for that. So yeah, I think maybe if I just put a disclaimer in the chat, maybe in the description, maybe that's enough. I'm not too sure. So again, same thing. So at the moment now, if we go the XUSD to pDAI, so if you swapped, so obviously at the moment, one XUSD is worth 0.224 pDAI. So I'll take the ratio to the pDAI. It's worth 0.24 pDAI. So what is that telling you? It's telling me that pDAI is stronger than XUSD. It's stronger at the moment. But this also is headed for the one-to-one. This is part of the narrative. But the XUSD is a vibratile asset. So it's not supposed to peg it a one-to-one. It has a different mechanism. So in the same way with affection and pDAI, how there's like a minting and a burning process that happens as it fluctuates above and below, same as XUSD. So the token itself has that built into it. So when the price gets too high above the $1, it'll get burned. Sorry. It will get, so basically to get the value up, it's going to get burned. So burning the token will bring it up, and then once it gets too high, then they'll start minting. So they'll start inflating it, which will bring the price down. So it's kind of doing the opposite. So then it will get minted, so the value comes down, and then when it gets too low, then it will get burnt. And then if you have your vibe pass, you can take advantage and get a distribution of the supply when it gets minted. So if you burn your supply, you will get a vibe pass rating. You will get a percentage of the rewards based on how much you burn when it gets minted up the top, when it's hovering above 1. And so you could either continuously swap this ratio, like sell your XUSD for pDAI back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You could burn and then take advantage of the minting. That's going to depend on how you want to play it. But this is what I love about it, because it's a very, very simple thing where it's going to exist within a certain percentage of the one-to-one region, and then you can just exist in there. Don't have to make things complicated. Just keep things very, very simple. Just have a few things. That's how I like to do it. I like to just have a few things. I've tried to do it where I have like too many Atropa ecosystem tokens or too many Pulse Chain tokens, and my brain just gets scrambled. There's just too many things going on over the blockchain. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to hone in on these particular things, and I'm going to be an expert in those things, and that's enough. Yeah, okay, I might not get my 100x by doing this, but if you can just double your bags here and there, That's pretty damn good. You know, 100x is basically like what, a double and a double and a double. It's like a few doubles, right? 100x. So if you did this with just affection and pDAI, you double your bag from, like, if you did this down here, you double it here, you swap it back, it comes back down, swap it again, you double it again. So you've doubled your bags, you've doubled. So your 1 million goes to 2 million, comes back down, your 2 million goes to 4 million, comes back down, your 4 million goes to 8, comes back up. You know, you could keep doing that. Even comes up here, sell the 8 million for 16 million, for example. So you double it. It's like a very, very simple, straightforward thing. To me, it seems easier and more playable than trying to pick a 100x, because a 100x really is like, you know, we as Hexicans we're almost spoiled. We're like spoiled brats. We had the 10,000x, and now we just think that, why is Pulse Chain not pumping? Why haven't I got my 10,000x? We really got like desensitized to how difficult it is. Like a 10,000x is a unicorn, and Hex was a unicorn. And so now we just have an expectation that everything's going to do a 10,000x. And why haven't I found a 10,000x? And, you know, there's these unicorns that are happening all everywhere else, but the core coins haven't pumped. But there's still plenty of things that have like, if you got pDAI when the Moon King was talking about it, or Teddy Bear when the Moon King was talking about it, you've got your 10,000x, or you've got your 100x or 200x or 400x. So, but again, it's kind of the same as just doubling. If you just double a few times, there's your 100x. So yeah, it's just a different way of looking at it. And in my opinion, it's a lot easier way to look at it. So how about the ratio? How about ratioing pDAI with BFF? Nuno, exactly the same principle, man. So the reason why I like these is because for me, it's a clear distinction. Another really, really good one is obviously the Atropa and pDAI. So Maria has often spoken about Atropa being 750 when pDAI gets to $1. So in other words, so I'll bring this one up now. So in other words, instead of the clear line being 1-to-1, the line is 7.5, because that means the ratio will be $7.5. If pDAI gets to $1, then Atropa will be $7.50. And so the Atropa to pDAI ratio is also a really good ratio to play in, because if it does get to the dollar, then Maria's saying it's probably going to be 750, then that's also a clear ratio to exist within. So let's have a look at that one as well. I mean, you know, you want to find the ones where it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be like a 10x ratio, but they're going to be like so hard to find. So that's why these 1-to-1 ratios, just to me, are just, it's almost better, because there's more certainty. There's less percentage gain, but there's more certainty, and it's happening more. Like when you have a ranging ratio, that's exactly what you want. So I'll have a look at pDAI to BFF in just a second, but I'll show Atropa to pDAI. I often show this. Now I've drawn the 750, so you can see that it's hovering around the 750. So in other words, one Atropa at 750 is going to be one pDAI at $1. So here, basically, 6-7 Atropa is worth one pDAI. So in other words, you can see this here. So if I put 6-7 here, it should say, what? You son of a gun. I suppose it would be like that. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, one Atropa is worth 6-7 pDAI. So this is another good ratio to play in. So in other words, yeah, swapping your pDAI for Atropa here. And if it gets closer to here, then you would swap your pDAI back to Atropa. Or if it goes above, even better. So anything down here. And I would kind of, like this sort of area here, I would kind of ignore this, because this is almost like when it was trying to establish itself as when it was trying to lock itself into this ratio. And now the ratio seems much clearer. The range seems much clearer. It seems like it's now kind of existing within this kind of a region. So if it's ever up here where it's kind of swinging, you can see it swinging like, about 2 to 2.5. So I'll do this dashed or dotted. So this is also possibly another good ratio to exist within, especially if you love pDAI and Atropa. And again, I've only just thought about this right now. If you love pDAI and Atropa, yeah, it could be a really, really good trade right now to just, if you're like, I'm just sitting on my pDAI and I don't want to touch my pDAI, or I want to put it in something safe like a liquidity providing position, or I do strongly believe that Atropa is going to get to 750, then you could really swap your pDAI for Atropa, and then when it gets up to here, you're basically going to make, it's not going to be a lot, but it's still something. You make plus 10% or plus 11.97% or thereabouts. So if you've got $1 million, you'd end up having 1 million and 111,000. Yeah. So you'd end up having an extra 111,000. So, well, sorry, 110,000. So that's pretty good. That's exceptionally good, particularly if it pegs to $1. That 11.97%, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if it pegs to $1 and Atropa also gets to 750, that's exceptional. That's exceptional. That's extremely exceptional. So now let's have a look at BFF.delete. So yeah, I mean, like I like these simple ones. That's just me. I like these simple ones, but now we have a look at BFF.delete. Starting to get a shitload of lag. Because here we go. Because I know Zach has been talking about this one a lot as well. It's basically just about which token is stronger against the other token. So again, if you go back to the Bitcoin to the US dollar, obviously Bitcoin is very strong against the US dollar because it's now worth over 100,000. There was a point in time where it was very weak against the US dollar and it was less than $1, but now it's exceptionally strong. So again, when you want to have a look at the ratios, you always need to make sure that you click this, because it always by default, whenever you open a new chart, will go to the USD. Yeah, this also is a pretty damn good ratio. So you really don't know what it's going to do, but it definitely looks to be existing within 200% ratio. Excuse me. So yeah, if you swap here and it does a 200%, you tripled your bag. Because remember, 100% is double. So that's a 2x. So then 200% is a 3x. So if you had $1 million pDAI here that you would swap into BFF.delete, and you swap it back into pDAI after it's done a 200% move, then you would have 3 million pDAI. So just like what I do is I find tokens that I like the narrative of, tokens that I like keeping an eye on, tokens that have a lot of liquidity. That's the important part as well. Tokens that have a lot of liquidity and tokens that have like a very clear ratio. And this to me looks like it has a very, very clear ratio. But there's no guarantees because BFF really is like the supply is so limited, whereas, the affection is like, it's very much tied to the one-to-one. XUSD is very much also trying to play on this P stables narrative. So it's it's a very, very clear and easy ratio. Whereas this, it really could go like, it could keep going like this, but also it could also go like this. It really just depends. So, but at the minute, the fact that it's done this now for basically an extremely long time, so almost a year now, and the fact that even here, like the way that it's almost like even the ratios or the initial liquidity setup somehow deliberately locks it into this kind of a ratio. So if you like both, you could provide liquidity for BFF and pDAI and then just ratio trade it and just keep doubling your bags and doubling your bags and doubling your bags. So yeah, I would look for something with a lot of liquidity, because if it doesn't have a lot of liquidity, then it's a problem. You might find something that's like, oh, what a sick ratio, but there's no liquidity. So you can't really swap enough through it. So you might swap like 1 million here, but by the time you get up to here, you can't even swap that 1 million back because there's barely enough liquidity. So that's why I try to look for things with a lot of liquidity as well. And so yeah, this is actually not too bad. So good call, Nuno. And then of course this is a great one as well, because Zach is constantly talking about this as well. $1.54 to bridge at the moment. Finally cheap. I just got my Centrelink payment. What shall I buy? Nice, man, nice. Yes, I do remember that I sold my EHEX and PHEX, but I was scared of not having any liquidity to exit. So I sold. I was just getting into crypto when Richard disregarded EHEX, and I truly supported. That's a shame. What's going on, DN Trust Zella? Understanding ratio trading has been a game changer. It took me like 6 months to comprehend. Yeah, me too, the notorious one. And honestly, more than 6 months. Honestly speaking, more than 6 months. I would like to say just 6 months. I would say probably like a good 3 or 4 months of listening to Somi, and then like a year of watching ratios in the Atropa ecosystem, and then maybe like a few months now of like fully comprehending it. So I would say, yeah, I'm probably a very slow learner. I can't buy XUSD. Every time it can't calculate gas fees and my transaction gets stuck. So very simply, all you'd probably want to do for that is just change your slippage, because XUSD burns every time that you buy it because of the phase that we're in at the moment. So yeah, just bear that in mind. So for example, XUSD, let's say, what do we got here? So PLS. So it's not about how much you swap. It's just about the slippage. So when you're in the right kind of settings, so I think you would go to the settings option here. You would expert mode possibly. Yeah, just if you're watching, just basically turn all of these things on. You can also allow multi-hops. That might get you a cheaper price. And then, yeah, just do this drop down and then edit the slippage tolerance. So I've always got it on 11. So, yeah, if your slippage is high, it won't be a problem. I have experimented with that because I have heard people talk about that. And there is a particular way with XUSD when the new epochs come, where each epoch that launches every 6 hours, as you trade within that 6 hour period, you're getting rewarded for trading within that 6 hour period over this distribution phase, which is going to last until the 24th of March. So as I do those trades, I try and do it as soon as the epoch launches. I'll just do a whole bunch of trades. But if your slippage is too high, then you get wrecked on your XUSD. But if your slippage is too low, then your trades won't go through. So I've found basically 5% slippage is the sweet spot. So if I put that on 5%, your trade should go through. If it's still not going through, increase the slippage, or make sure that obviously you're going through a route where there's actually enough liquidity. I don't use Piteous. I only use PulseX. I don't use 9mm. 9mm is an exceptional. I've used it maybe a couple of times and I was like, wow, this is actually really, really nice. But I just don't use it. I just use PulseX because I just like PulseX. I like the simplicity of it. So I felt like Vitalik was a hater because of the high gas fees. I never made profit from Ethereum tokens. Tax literally ate up my profits, and I left with what I came with. That sucks, man. XUSD is basically a team of, so it's an OG hexagon, Anders. So he's big in that he created love.io, which is the first, well, basically it was like the first altcoin on Pulse Chain, Love.io, and it's connected with real world assets. So it's a reward token for a drop shipping. So you basically buy products on there and you get rewarded in Love.io, Love tokens rather. And so he is an OG hexagon, met Richard Hart, and so he's incorporated the principles of XUSD, Hex into XUSD with the dev, and there's also two other people on the core team. So there's Anders, Katrina, John, and Nikki. So they're like the core team, and then there's like some other devs as well, but they're the core team. So they're those four are like the real creators of it. So a lot of it is Surfacing's code. So John surfacing. pDAI and Teddy Bear go up and down together. Does that mean that pDAI does a 50x, Teddy does that as well? So this is the thing. So when you look at these charts, so if we just take the pDAI, so this is the ratio against each other. So for example, here, it's like pDAI to affection is grinding sideways, but at the same time, the pDAI chart is basically going like this, and the affection chart is also basically going like this. But at the minute, the affection chart is less, and that's why, like, it's stronger in favor of pDAI, because actually the pDAI chart is like this, and maybe the affection chart is like this. So that's why when you compare the two together, that's why pDAI is stronger. So it'll be the same as pDAI and Teddy Bear. So even though pDAI and Teddy Bear might be doing this, grinding sideways, individually, Teddy Bear is doing this and pDAI is doing this. It's just that one here is slightly stronger compared to the other, but they're still doing multiple X's. That's the thing. So whether you're on this side of the trade or that side of the trade, does it really matter? No. That's why it's like, you know, doing it simply in this, where it's just like, oh, I can just double my bags and double my bags and double my bags. You're still sitting on something which is probably going to do like a 50 to 100x. But now you're just doubling it here, doubling it there. And that's how you're going to get your 100x, your 1000x, your 10,000x. No, I don't. I don't believe that pDAI and Pulse Chain will peg to $1 soon. I hope it will happen within this bull run, but I do not sit in the camp that says it's gonna get pegged tomorrow. I think it's just, no, I don't believe that. I know that you can do it in the code, but I just my understanding of liquidity, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it being plausible. I think it definitely can. I think it definitely can. I mean, the guys who are working on PMaker, I think that they can certainly make it happen. So I don't get out of bed any less than a 10,000x mat. Exactly, bro. I don't get out of bed for anything less than a 10,000x either, man. Hey, what's up? My first time here. Appreciate the alpha. Oh, Ink Maxi, what's going on, bro? Just wondering, any ratio trades for Ink? Yeah. So okay, let's very quickly go through this process. I don't want to go too late again, because these streams, I do enjoy interacting with you guys, but I don't like it to be too late. So how would I do this? So let's say I love Ink. So again, what are some of the things that I said? I said I want to look for higher liquidity. So actually, what I'm first going to do is I'm just going to close up some of these charts now, so my computer doesn't just keep whinging. Like, you know, this is the life of a bull market. I can afford to buy a new laptop, but you buy a laptop now, it's like opportunity cost. Okay, so this is where, okay, let's have a look at it against Pulse Chain. But then I'll start to look at it against maybe like some more exotic pairs. Let's have a look at it to Atropa. So yeah, there's not really a lot of liquidity there. Is that? I wonder which USDT that is. I wonder if that's the forked USDT or. Okay, so I could do this. I could just go to Deck Screener and do this, or the other thing I could do is, I feel like this is clear now. Oh crap! What happened there? Hey. I feel like this is clear now. So Puffy, did I follow you? So send me a message now, Puffy, so I don't forget. But yeah, let's go to. So I could just search on Deck Screener, or I could. Here we go. It should be done by now. I should pin this to the top, man. All right, so now I'm going to get the ink. I'm going to paste ink in here. Oops, son of a gun. Copy the ink. Copy the ink. And then... Why? What? Bro. See, this is now my computer's being so slow. It should be copied. Address copied to clipboard. Okay, finally. Okay. So then I'll look through the liquidity pools versal.app because again, I want to find something with thick liquidity. So while that's loading, I mean, I don't like doing the ratios with the core tokens, just personally, except for eHex and pHex because it's the one-to-one. The rest of these, it's like they kind of move together, and yeah, I mean, I guess maybe swapping pulse chain for ink is a good play, and then you could just double it. This certainly looks like a decent little ratio, and you could just double it and then swap it back into pulse chain. That could be one. Obviously, there's a lot of liquidity in there. What's this? Ink to Atropa. Yeah, see this. So this is an example of one that I wouldn't like. I don't like this at all, actually, because there's no clear range. I want to find a clear range. So this looks like it could go damn near anywhere. But having said that, that's certainly extraordinarily interesting that there's a shitload of volume that's happened now. And then look at this. Oh, wow. Okay, hang on a minute. I mean, if you really zoom in, it looks like an extremely tight range, but it's actually like 100%. So, wow, I mean, shit, that might be a cheeky little swap right there. Swapping Atropa into ink, maybe even just get a 50% move, and then you'd get 50% more Atropa. That's a cheeky little move. So what else? What was I looking at? So yeah, oh, come on, bro. Yeah. So anyway, you get the idea. So then I'd look at liquidity pools versal.app. I'd bring up all the ratio charts. I'd look for something where I'm trying to find a clear range. The risk in something like this is, okay, well, what makes it interesting is there seems to be a market maker trying to hold this kind of a range here and lock the price of ink with the price of Atropa at around this area. That's very telling, but it's new. That's the problem. So it could go any which way and you don't know. So there's no clear range here. It's fallen out of what could have been considered a range. You could have considered probably maybe this to be some kind of a range, but it's fallen out of there. So it's like, ugh. But now it's created like a new range, which is really interesting. So maybe it does this. Maybe it ranges in here, and then it keeps dropping, and it keeps dropping, and it keeps dropping. And yeah, to be perfectly honest, that wouldn't surprise me even in the slightest. That ink would be like people would be selling the crap out of ink to pump Atropa. Wouldn't surprise me even in the slightest. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Now touch me, baby. See, just sometimes it kind of crashes out. And then also my computer's just getting a bit slow. But I want to at least show this process since Ink Maxi has been asking. So as this loads up, I'll keep going through these questions. My pleasure, Nuno, my absolute pleasure. I've said those things, man. By the way, do you have any info about the Luke token? I do and I don't. So the Luke token, so that there was a whole range of tokens that so it was one thing that I was playing around with. So and I've closed it too. So what I was talking about before with the affection and hang on a second. So which one is it? Mint. Here we go. So that same thing with affection and pDAI, where you burn pDAI to mint affection, there's also that same thing happening with Luke, and I think it's Treasury Bill. So Maria launched maybe like 6 of these tokens. So yeah, the Atropa, and then you so on this website mint.aff.icu, you go Atropa ecosystem, and you go here. So reserve te, so Treasury Bill. So this is another one where, so this concept of one-to-one. So it's that same process with the affection and die. And so they all do this now. So Luke, so Mufti, Tabor, and I think Mufti that I saw Maria do an LP of today. Mufti, Tabor, Ministry, ABCN, ICE, Luke. So all of these, except for Visa, I think. So I'm regularly looking at this just to kind of see if there's any like sweet deal. I haven't actually looked at it for. Okay, so at the moment, yeah, basically you wouldn't do it. So you wouldn't. So basically, you're burning your Treasury Bill to mint Luke. You wouldn't do that because you're going to be losing. See, it's got you. Basically, you're losing value. So in other words, at the moment, the better thing to do, instead of burning your Treasury Bill for the Luke, you would actually swap your Treasury Bill for the Luke. So this kind of idea like is the same. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's have a look-see here. So let's bring this concept into it. Contract address, so Treasury Bill. What USDT was this? Yeah, that's the crap USDT. I think that's the EUSDT. So, all right. So what do we got here? So Treasury Bill. And then Luke. Let's bring up this ratio. Here we go. All right, so now again, we want to price it in Treasury Bill. So no one's doing anything with these. Basically, it should be based on this, because 1,000 Treasury Bill burning for 1,000 Luke means the real value of Luke is actually the value of Treasury Bill. So if that's why all these are golden opportunities, in my opinion, which, like, to be perfectly honest, this is something that I should probably start wrapping my head around a little bit more, or at least start dipping my toes. I did start dipping my toes just to experiment on my donation wallet. But now if we do this, that one-to-one, god damn, this freaking must be really annoying to listen to me. Like, I'm trying to like minimize the amount of nose things that I'm doing, because I imagine that would be, you know, you get those noises that are just like really annoying to listen to. I would imagine that would be one that would grind people's gears. So my apologies. I can't help it. It's only at this time, and it's only when I stream with the microphone like this. So maybe it's a microphone thing. So at the moment, Treasury Bill, we can see, is stronger. So one Treasury Bill is equal to 1.65 Luke. So in other words, you would swap your Treasury Bill for Luke. There's like no liquidity here. So you would end up having to be the one that makes the liquidity. There's 232 liquidity. So you could end up becoming the owner of this particular liquidity pool. So basically you could buy up Luke until it gets to one-to-one, and then you could swap the Treasury. So basically you're swapping Treasury for Luke here. So this is a great way to increase the amount of... Wow. Yeah, wow. Cheeky. This is actually a cheeky little way of increasing your Treasury Bill. So if you can find one of these which actually has a decent amount of liquidity and you believe in Treasury going to $1, yeah, you swap it into Luke. There's not much liquidity in here. You could probably yourself buy it up to the 1-to-1. Maybe then create like a liquidity position here once it gets to 1-to-1, and then you could swap maybe some of your Luke back into your Treasury and get your initial Treasury back. And then if you're keeping your eyes on the ratios, if it ever comes up here, that's when it becomes profitable to mint. So in other words, your Luke is worth more than your Treasury bill. Your Luke is worth more than your Treasury bill up here. So then you would burn your Treasury bill for Luke, and then you would sell your Luke for Treasury bill, because you're going to get more than just doing a straight swap. So it's that same principle as the affection and pDAI that's happening with all of these tokens, which it looks like no one's really doing that. So I would definitely have a look at that. So let's go back to the Ink example. It's still okay. So Ink Maxi, this is what I would do. Interesting. I don't know what these random tokens are. SEO, Unipool for all. That's weird. SEO, Unipool for all. I don't know if someone's like trying to tell us something here. I'm not too sure. So yeah, maybe SolidX, Ink and SolidX might be a good ratio, Ink and UFO. So then in the same way that I showed you how I was looking through those ranges, I would look through these because there's lots of liquidity here. You want to find something with lots of liquidity. You don't want to go down to something that's got less than 1,000 liquidity, because your swaps are going to be too small. But if you've only got a small amount of tokens, then yeah, it might be good for you to do like low liquidity. It really depends. But yeah, I always try and look for something with like at least 10,000 in liquidity, so it makes the swapping kind of worth it. I know no nukes, maybe Ink to no nukes might be a good one. So this is no nukes here, also Ink to no nukes here. So you got V1, V2. You got Ink to XUSD as well. So yeah, man, there you go. So have a look through that process. So hopefully I've shown you enough to kind of get you underway. And Nuno, hopefully now that's clear it'll be the same with all of these. So that's just Luke, but all of these are exactly the same. So let's have a look at Ministry. It's exactly the same. Yeah. So it's the same. So Ministry to Treasury bill, the chart would probably look very much like this as well. So no one's actually doing this. No one's taken advantage of this yet. Couple of other dogholes everywhere we look, Kimbo. pDAI, PWBTC, great ratio to compare against BTC. Exactly, man. Exactly. The ratio, exactly. So yeah, there you go. So my pleasure, AOKG. Could do, Gabe. It could do. Exactly. I do not believe for a second that it's going to happen overnight. I do not sit in that camp. I think it could. It definitely could by the code, but they're just yeah, the whole sacrifice wallets, and they could come and back the liquidity. But then if that's what it takes to collateralize the vaults, the OA, so in other words, it needs liquidity to collateralize it, right? So if the OA comes and collateralizes it to get it to peg to the dollar, then everyone can just take out of it. It's too risky for the OA to do that. Even though decentralized me is like presented a variety of ways that the market can actually interact with it, I agree with his outlook, actually, that not everyone's going to sell. The market's going to do a bunch of different things, but it's still too risky. Why would you put the OA bags on the line like that? Because you're risking not just this possibility of pDAI pegging, but you're risking like the entire blockchain, and you're risking like all of Hex. It's just the risk is too high. It's too high, and the JEETs are too many. There's just too many JEETs with too many high expectations on Pulse Chain, not just on Pulse Chain, just in the world. So I do believe it can take, if it's going to take years, I'm totally happy with that. So Maria said all it takes is hover around the 100k, maybe waiting for a case motion to dismiss. I mean, it has done that in the past, VKH. It has actually in the past, PWBTC and pDAI. It has stayed in the ratio of pDAI to PWBTC. The value of it bonded together is the same as Bitcoin to the US dollar, which is pegged to the dollar. That was very interesting. Hey, Crypto Artie, good to see you in here, man. I'm very, 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 very bullish if we get a dismissal. You know, I look at someone like Rackham Rochelle, and he's probably got plenty of buddies on the side. Like these guys, if you're a billionaire, you become a billionaire through your network as well. It's not just like, oh, I became a billionaire and I won the lotto and I don't know anyone else that's a billionaire. Like he'll have his billionaire buddies, and there was all these Saudi friends. Like they're not going to risk their money coming to a blockchain where there's the risk of something happening with the SEC. We saw what that massive dump did. They're not going to risk their billions of dollars, their millions of dollars on a blockchain like this when they can just put it in Solana or whatever else, right? When they can just put it in Bitcoin. Why would they take that risk? They don't need to get 100x's. But if the case gets dismissed, then I think it's go time for pDAI, because I think all the whales who've been possibly watching, they'll flood in and it's go time. So we're really like the dismissal, man, like so much is right. It's like so much is riding on it from a sentiment perspective, in my opinion. So I think like if the case gets dismissed, it's gonna very, very quickly go to like the 10-cent mark. And I think maybe my video for tomorrow is going to be my next price prediction for the next local top for pDAI. So I'm going to go into that process for the next one. Everybody loves a price prediction. So I'm going to do that. And considering my last ones were like pretty much bang on, I want to see if I can get 3 in a row. But it's going to be a lot harder. I'm going to tell you that, because we're entering into like the hockey stick areas now. So, all right. He paid for views. All right, so yeah, let's chill with the false advertising. So the Crypto Kings, what's going on, Crypto Kings, by the way? I don't know if that's the Moon King or Ian. What's going on, boys? What is the visual platform Maria has, referencing about creating from the Amsterdam interview? He said it would be cool to make a YouTube-like platform of emoji agents autonomously trading to view. I don't think he's built that out. I think that's like years and years away. So it sounded so cool and interesting, but I can't make the picture in my head yet. None of us can, man. I'm sure that Maria's got like a vague image in his mind, but yeah. No problem, brother. Anytime. And as in chill, I mean not you, but him. Don't do stuff like that. He does have the type of account to bring in that many people, and it's obvious. Paying to look good is so easy to spot on X. Oh, man. That kind of sucks, right? Yeah, because when I saw 60,000, I was like, that's dope. But if he paid for that, Zaki Booze. Yeah, let's go for the organic growth. And even on that perspective, Moon King, if you're still in here, Moon King, I want to do an interview with you. I sent you a DM. You might not have checked it yet, but I'd love to do an interview with you one time, bro. Or even if it's Ian, like even if it's both of you, I'd love to have a yarn with you guys. So, doing it organically for pDAI is also the way to go. So even if we can turn the maker thing on, it's like inorganic. It's unnatural. Slow and steady wins the race. This is not these little parables and sayings that we have in society, there is an element of truth. There's no quick fix. There's no such thing as a quick fix. It doesn't last. It doesn't work. So yeah, we can peg to $1, but it's a quick fix. I don't want a quick fix. I want it to happen properly. There's no such thing as I'm going to put it 100 kilos tomorrow and just be beefed up. You got to do the reps at the gym. You got to build it up over time. There is no quick fix in life. Why should we have a quick fix here? It just presents far too much risk. I just want to it's like a diet. You know, you diet, you do a crash course diet and you don't eat for like whatever. And then what happens after that? Then you just put weight straight back on because nothing's actually changed. It's all the same principles everywhere. I just want to get my hands on Maria's beta app. Yeah, once it comes out, man, don't you worry. I seen the Star Wars theme tokens and I was like, maybe I'm doing too much. So if I keep going. I'm going to get wrecked, but now you're bringing this to my attention. I want in. Yeah, mint.aff.icu. So what tokens make dysnomia, and is it layer 2? I think dysnomia is layer 2, and what makes it like anyone can make tokens for dysnomia. So I've shown that in previous videos. So just go on my YouTube channel, search how to create dysnomia token or how to create an LAU token, and you can make them there. So Donald Bundy, what's going on, man? Good morning. the neon guys. Here we go. So neon has been doing all right. So it is the Moon King. What's going on, Moon King? We did see this AOKG. We did see this, man. It did get to 60 cents. There was wicks. It was all over Gecko Terminal. I saw it on multiple charts, but Gecko Terminal has been crap since then. So we're all loaded and locked in from what I see, and hopefully everyone is patient. I'm not selling, bro. I'm in forever on this roller coaster. Nice, man. And even, yeah, neither am I. There's going to be people that sell, and that's fine. That's the game. But for me, the alpha is going to be being able to take advantage of that selling volume when and if pDAI gets to $1, instead of being a seller, quickly become a liquidity provider. What avenues are they going to sell into? That's what I'm interested in the most. Yeah, I mean, we have to have our bags packed now. We have to have our bags packed now. Like, really, now's the time. If your bags aren't packed now, I mean, yeah, Moon King, I've been showing your TA or your style of TA, which I've been learning from. That basically something like this, if it bounces off this, then it's really like confirm Moon King style bullishness. So yeah, if you're like, I mean, gosh, if this lines up with a case dismissal, you can't have got a better entry than that, or at least within the last few weeks. I mean, obviously, if you got an entry down here, but if the case gets dismissed around here and we hover around this line, you'll never, ever get a better price than this, ever. New epoch starts in a few minutes. All right, new epoch for XUSD starts in a few minutes, so I'm going to jump off. That's it for today, fam. 466 watching. Thank you so much, everyone. So I have started clipping these down. So this has gone for an hour and a half. So this is good. Just after 11, a good amount of time. I clip these up and I spread them out over the next few days. So yeah, please share out the videos, like, subscribe, and then when you see the shorter versions, watch them again, share it out. Especially if you really liked those segments of it. And it's also really good, especially for the ratio stuff. The more you listen to it, the more you watch it, the more it sinks into your mind. But then also do it. Actually do it. So do you all see the Pump Fund app coming to Pulse Chain? Yes, we did. I saw that. The Moon King started talking about that today as well. So, all right, Speaker Freaker, my absolute pleasure, man. Hopefully you enjoyed. Everybody, hopefully you enjoyed. I'm going to get onto this XUSD. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good night.